Set this to, okay. Today is Wednesday, December 9th, 2020, and our presentation tonight is Leslie J. Klein, an artist talk. Leslie will be introduced by Cynthia, and so we'll get started with that soon. As you almost all know, my name is Daryl Cooperstock, and I'll be the tech host on this end for the program tonight. Mark is going to be the tech host on the other end, I guess, or techie on the other end. And then I'll turn it over to Cynthia and Shoshana. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, great. Tonight's session is being recorded with Leslie's permission. So hopefully that's okay with everyone. And that recording will be posted on the BEKI website within the next couple of days, no longer than a week. And that can be found on the BEKI website under the learning menu. It's the last choice on online schmoozes. And you can find almost all of our schmooze recordings that we've been doing over the last several months there. And a lot of them are really wonderful sessions and interesting. So if you weren't sort of coming to these regularly all along the way, take the time to watch some of those because they're really great. I will let you know that Leslie will be sharing her screen tonight because she is going to be sharing with you the video, the beautiful video that Cynthia made of the exhibit at BEKI, and walking us through the exhibit. And she'll be narrating that as we go. I don't know how long, Cynthia or Leslie, how long is the exhibit going to be up?
Cynthia?
Anybody know?
It's a moving target.
Got it. Okay.
Up and deinstalled to go to a touring exhibit on the Holocaust that want to tell us a little bit more about. And we wanted actually to keep some of the pieces up for Hanukkah purchase time, because if anyone is so inclined, BEKI.
No pun intended. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay. Okay.
So as soon as that time is passed, we will be replacing the show with selections from our permanent collection.
Okay.
That's
okay.
okay.
Thank you. All right. So I'd like you to note that the the video is going to start and stop at various times. The screen will be shared, but there will be times, for the sake of the presentation, it'll start and stop. We're hoping that won't be a problem with anybody's internet connection, but that's intended. So you'll know that it's probably not that. And also note that Leslie's requested that for optimal effect that during the presentation, we not use the gallery view. In other words, that you go up to, well, I know on a PC, it's up in the upper right corner, where it says view with a grid. If you look on that, once the screen is shared, you'll see that it'll say side-by-side speaker view. And that's the view that we prefer that you use for this presentation, so that you get most of your screen, the actual images that Leslie's going to be talking about, without the distraction of everybody else's face. But we want to concentrate on the work itself and on what Leslie has to say. So when we're doing that, right as we start the sharing, I will also announce briefly how you can adjust the size of those windows in your browser so that you get the best effect possible. Okay, our presentation this evening is going to allow for questions and answers, but at the end of the presentation. So if something occurs to you during during Leslie's talk, please just make a note of it. And then in the chat.
I just brought mayo and like salad dressing.
Hello. Okay. Can
Yeah.
everybody put themselves on mute except for Leslie, Shoshana, and Cynthia, please? Otherwise, I will put you on mute. Anyway, the questions and comments will be at the end of the presentation. If you have a question or a comment, please just type that one word, question or comment, to me in the chat. Make a note as to what your question was so you remember it, but don't type the whole question or comment if that's something you want part of the discussion aloud, because you'll miss part of the presentation, and so will people who are trying to read your question in the meantime and missing out on what Leslie has to say. For everyone's sake, as I said, we want all everybody to remain muted, except Leslie once the presentation starts. Does anybody have any questions?
We're muted.
Well, you can raise your hand and wave, but thank you. Thank you. Put me in my place. Anyway, I'm going to turn this over to Shoshana to turn it over to Cynthia, and then we'll begin. Okay.
Hi,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Welcome. I'm going to do a very brief introduction of Cynthia, who put this together. Thank you so much. Cynthia is part of the art committee at BEKI, along with Margaret, who's here, and Helen, who's also here. And I have to say, when I think about the things that have been done at BEKI in the last 20 years that have made it better, the rotating art exhibits is definitely on that list. And you guys have been tireless and have put together some beautiful exhibits, including the one we're going to learn about tonight. I'm very excited. And I'll let Cynthia introduce Leslie.
Okay, so thank you, Shoshana. Yes, this was a huge group effort. I have to say, we also had, on the day we were hanging it, we had Bruce Warren taking things in and out of frames. I think Harriet was helping him. Diane Crivellan was ironing works as we were installing. Hannah and Taya helped with installation. So big group effort. And I'll think of more people later who put in a lot of time for this. But I want to be brief in my introduction of Leslie to say that I first met Leslie in 1986. I was giving a talk at Cooper Union and a panel as part of the Women's Caucus for Art. It was a panel on motifs of cultural distinction, and it was an interesting time because in the 80s, Jewish art was still referenced in work that referenced Jewish motifs in any way was still considered culturally distinct. And so it was a mixed panel to people from different non-mainstream white culture. And literally about 20 minutes before I gave the talk, someone came rushing up to me and said, "Here's a slide by this fabulous artist. You have to throw it into what you're saying." And I'm like, but I've already prepared. And then I looked at the slide and I'm like, okay, she's in. So I didn't actually meet Leslie. I met Leslie. So I don't think you were there, Leslie. You were there.
I don't think so.
I don't think you were there. My memory is that you were not there, that somebody gave me your slide. And then many years later, Jennifer Klein, who's on the call, said to me, I really want you to meet my mother. She's coming to town. She's an artist. And I had been trying to find this artist because I had the slide. And then she introduces me and it's like, but I know you. So this is really a relationship that's been going on since 1986. And as you'll see in the work, Leslie's career has gone through many changes since then she does many different things that she'll tell you about. I'm not going to take your time telling you, but we did plan this as a bit of a retrospective because of course the relatives were coming from all over for the double bat mitzvah, but voila, and didn't quite happen. My sister Linda, who's on the call with us, when she turned some significant decade that I can't remember. Was it 60?
60.
60. Okay. And she wanted a tallit for her birthday. And so we commissioned Leslie to do that. So we have this long connection. So much for what I'm going to say here. I think it's time to turn it over to Leslie and just remind everybody again to put your view on, Daryl, is it full
Yeah, I'm
screen
gonna do this as soon as we have the
or speaker
shared
view?
screen up. As soon as we have the shared screen
I
up,
think it's speaker view.
I'll tell everybody as soon as we have it up so they can actually see what they have to do. Okay? So Leslie, we're looking forward.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank Cynthia and Shoshana so much for inviting me to have this exhibit, and Cynthia for making the video. It was up to all of you, your caring and your support, to mount this exhibit. Special love and appreciation go, of course, to my family, to Jennifer, Jim, Hannah, and Taya Kleinberger, and to the congregation of BEKI for the opportunity to share my work in this very strange turn of events called COVID-19. As Cynthia mentioned, this exhibit entitled Tehia, Spirit and Fire, is a selected retrospective. It highlights different periods in my art career and has evolved. It really has evolved, that this important thread that has gone all the way through my work has been Judaism, has been Judaic content, although I've done other work, of course. But you will see this thread going through all of the various images, all of the various materials and concepts and techniques. You'll see graphite drawings and pastel paintings juxtaposed with fiber arts pieces and constructions, photography, and mixed media worked upon photo reproductions. So I think that it was the advent of the women's movement, my first journey to Israel, my first trip to Dachau. All of those things really influenced in various stages my work. So I think that we'll take the gallery walk now. So we will share our screen. Hopefully. All right.
There you go. Okay, now, Leslie, I'm going to take a second
Okay.
to explain to people what would be preferred for them to do. Okay?
Okay.
If you will, again, as I said before, go up to where it says view with the grid, click on that. You'll see it'll say side-by-side speaker, side-by-side gallery. Click on side-by-side speaker and adjust your, if you put your mouse down just sort of between where Leslie is and where the her shared image is, you'll see a line pops up when you put your mouse over it, and about halfway down there's a double line. Put your mouse over that line, click, and just move that line to the right, and that will increase the size of the window in which the video is going to be shown. And what you should have is only Leslie on the right in a small box, and the video taking up, about 3/4 of your screen. Is everybody okay with that? Any questions? Okay, here we go. All right.
Okay. This is the overview of this retrospective exhibit. And as we go through the gallery, I'm going to stop and talk about various pieces. This piece, the first piece, is a very rustic coat called Rebecca at the Well. Rebecca is one of my favorite biblical heroes. And so her coat represents part of her life. Part of her life to me was exemplified, let me go back a little bit, it was exemplified by the symbol that I made for her, and that is the broken water jug. I want to go back a little bit more. I'm sorry, I will get this underway. The broken water jug, I can't get back to it, was a painted and silk screened and machine digitized embroidery that symbolized the change in her life that she had before in Mesopotamia, and then what she thought was going to be a flowering in the land of Canaan with her new life, with her new husband. But it didn't work out that way. And so I feel that her life was compromised. As we go along here, this is representative of one of the drawings from my Lower East Side series, composed of drawings of photographs and of original lithographs. This is called Sport. Sport is checking out the neighborhood. He was quite a character, and I included him as one of my favorite parts of this series from the Lower East Side. Next to him is one of the pieces that was from my wearable art series. When we lived in San Antonio, I was a partner in a gallery that showed wearable art and art for the home called Textures Gallery, which was a real center for creative activity and performance. This piece is a jacket featuring airbrush. It starts as white fabric. So all of these pieces here, all of the imagery that you see here is painted or silk screened or airbrushed. And you see that there are digitized embroidery images as well. On the other wall, one of the pastel pieces called Astarte. Astarte was one of the goddesses, one of the ancient goddesses that our prophets railed against as evil, evil incarnate. Well, here we have Astarte on the outside looking in, but she is surrounded by the symbols from nature. Next to her is one of my series of the Akedah, the Binding of Isaac. And in my series of the Binding of Isaac, I conflate this story with our confessions that we make in Yom Kippur, where we enumerate our sins and we take our vows. So this is called Akedah, the vows. You see the ram in the center, superimposed. Let me go back again. Oh, I can't get that back. There we go. The ram is superimposed upon the tree of life from the Kabbalah, and also binding the image are the ropes of the binding, and intertwined within the bindings are the words that we say when we are confessing to God during Yom Kippur. There are words of dishonesty and deceit, zeal for bad causes, envy and harsh words. The flaws we tolerate in ourselves that we don't tolerate in others. Here we have Uncle Mengele's gingerbread house. It's a photo reproduction of a larger wall hanging. The story of Uncle Mengele is that, as you know, Mengele would come to the landing where the trains came in at Auschwitz, and he would take out the twins and he put them into a special barracks where they were very comfortable. So he would go visit them and he would fill his pockets with cookies and candies and gingerbread. And the kids would run up to him, Uncle Mengele, what did you bring us? And so Mengele would then turn to the attendant there and say, I want that one. And I'll take those two as well. And they were taken into the infamous Block 10. This is another in the Akeda series. This is the Akeda satin vest, where you see varying images emerging of the sacrificial lamb, the sacrificial ram. You can see also, more specifically, the tree of life and the bindings with which we bind ourselves. This is the Garden of Eden, my Garden of Eden jacket, and all along the neckline and down the sleeves are the leaves in the garden. It is all, again, starting at white fabric. It is all painted, this one airbrushed and also painted with images of energy and life, the images of the eggs that follow through many of the works at this period, and also the pomegranates. And this is bound on each side by the dual trees that are found in the garden. Along the corridor here, we come to the pomegranate room. This is a vignette from one of the pieces, one of my Rebecca pieces. This Rebecca piece was made for an exhibition that was shown in the Crusader Castle in Akko in Israel. As you see, the room that has the dual pomegranates, dual AL, and dueling within her womb. These wall hangings are photo reproduced from pastel wall hangings. On the left is Rebecca and Jacob, the choice. These are from our Biblical Women series. And it shows Rebecca as she has made her choice between her sons. I believe she loved both of her sons, but Esau has really vexed her and disappointed her. She knows that she is responsible for carrying forth the prophecy. And so she chooses Jacob and sends him away to protect him from the wrath of Esau. It is done on the illuminated manuscript format. This one, I wanted to also thank Miriam Klein-Kasanoff and her son, David, for posing for me for Rebecca and Jacob. And this is Lilith, also on the illuminated manuscript format, that has all the symbols of her story around the edges. Lilith, according to the Apocrypha, was Adam's first wife. And she flew the coop. She left the Garden of Eden when she refused to be second to Adam. But she hears her name bandied about in the company of evil. And so she, in this image, is returning to the Garden of Eden, looking over the garden wall, and she sees Adam with his new young wife. And she also sees the graffiti on the garden wall that says, "Keep out Lilith," and Lilith is a witch. Both of these together are differing images of a Judaic sensibility. On the left is from the series from the Lower East Side called Katz's Delicatessen. If you have been to Katz's Deli, you may even have recognized this fellow who is specialized in not being nice, never has a kind word to say, at least not that I heard of, and was altogether quite a character. This piece in the center is a photo vignette of a piece that you'll see downstairs when we go down to the downstairs lobby from the Holocaust series. This is called The Ghetto Diary, Dreams of Zion. So let's go on past that to the drawing on the right, which is probably one of my favorite drawings. This is a very small graphite drawing with Prismacolor emphasis. And it is of elderly woman who was the art supply shop manager when I used to go to Penland School of Craft in the summertime. She was retiring. And so her tribute was this very delicate and frail little bouquet. She didn't get a gold watch, I'm afraid. But I just always loved that drawing. So I'll catch up with my notes here. To Harvest. Harvest is one of the signature pieces of the original Tehia show, from which this exhibit is named as well. These pieces embody the feeling that I had when I first stepped foot in Israel. I just had this spark that I felt that this was my land and my place to be. As you can see, these are the eggs that I alluded to earlier that are within the nest, and they are underneath the chuppah, emanating from the egg on the Seder plate that we see as the allusion to birth and to rebirth. Next in this series is the tree in the midst of the garden. This tree is the embodiment of the fruit that carries the seeds of all of human possibility. And next, we have the opening of the Eastern Gate. This was inspired by a passage in the Zohar. Ezekiel tells us of the inner gate of the ancient temple that was facing towards the east. And the Zohar, let me read this quotation, that the Zohar declares the light of Binah burns through negativity and shines through to reveal the Shekinah. So my Eastern Gate. The terebinth is one of the sacred trees of ancient Israel. This one is a pastel painting inspired by Genesis 18, the visitation to Abraham and Sarah by the terebinths of Mamre, in which the visitors continue the prophecy that they will be the parents of future generations, prophesying that in the coming year, Sarah will bear a son. Well, of course, Sarah has a big laugh at that one. In this version, the Eden apple is superimposed within the branches of the terebinth tree. Never Again is one of the early collages from the Holocaust series, a combination of a print and a photographic contact sheet. So we're panning through the top, and we will meet at the bottom of the stairs in the lower lobby. Persephone, this is in the Greek myth of Persephone. Persephone agrees to become the queen of Hades as long as she may return to her mother, to the upper earth, to bring the earth back to life every spring. As she journeys down into the underworld, as you can see, I will continue here. As she journeys down into the underworld, she drops a trail of pomegranate seeds to make sure that she will be able to find her way back into the upper world where her mother is. And here we have the actual piece that I alluded to before. This is the soft sculpture book, The Dreams of Zion. Is that for me? The Dreams of the Ghetto Diary, Dreams of Zion. Each of these pages, when they're open, reveal two sides. This side over here is a page from the diary. It's a photo transfer of the diary of one of the young leaders of the Warsaw Ghetto. And on the other side are images from Zion, which they held in their mind constantly. They will eventually end up in the land of Israel. And this is on the next page, whoa. On that page before, it showed a drawing of the layout of the Warsaw Ghetto. And here you can see this is the last page that was written in the diary before the Nazis invaded. And let's go on now to they didn't know, we didn't see. Let's see if I can catch that one again.
You stop. Oops.
Oh, missed it again. I know we started late, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to end late, if that's okay. This one is called We Didn't Know, We Didn't See, and this is, again, a photo vignette of an actual construction piece, assemblage and construction piece of the Warsaw Ghetto, where you see the compression of Jews as they were forcibly incarcerated into a narrowing area, while the good people from the town walked right by the ghetto walls as they were being built. We didn't know, we didn't see. Across the lower lobby, you see the rest of the exhibit. This will lead to the Lily's birthday dress, where Lily's birthday dress is an attempt at normalcy that the people try to give to the children. The top is velveteen embroidered with the faces of the beleaguered children from the ghetto. And there are lacy sleeves and a very sweet apron that is sooty and burned at the bottom with images from the concentration camps. In this wall hanging, Eve, the center of the center of the center of the universe, Eve holds the secrets of life in her lap. I have placed her in front of the doors found in Jerusalem, which of course is the center of the universe. And the apple is the center of the center of the center of the universe. And I would like to thank Lisa Sloat for being my model on this one. Muse eggs are blazing from the nest of grass, while coming forth from the inside of this nest alludes to the story of Rachel and Leah and the fiery leaves of the mandrake plant. The Daughters of New Jerusalem is dedicated to the historic synagogue in downtown New Haven, the Orchard Street Shul, and to the intrepid immigrants who escaped the pogroms in Russia and Eastern Europe to come to New Haven and settle. So you see photographs, photo transfers up on the shoulders, on the bodice of this jacket of the burgeoning congregation as they are within the mechitza, the edges of the mechitza. Lower down on the, as we go down on the jacket, you see stitchery of the chairs from the synagogue and the stained glass windows on the cuffs. As we go further down the skirt, there are shreds of bed sheets and of lace curtains and floating feathers that tell of the pogroms, the ferocity and the invasion of the pogroms. This piece is called the Madonna of Ashkelon. This was from an image that I took, a photography image that I took from the square, the sarcophagus square in the old city of Ashkelon. And I know that this wall must have been plastered and whitewashed time and time again. But to me, this image of the ancient goddess keeps coming through. This wall hanging is a triptych called The Wall. It's the center image of the boxcar and the side panels of the Western Wall in Israel. The graffiti on the boxcar is from biblical passages. I will bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. And the passages on the side panels are from Lech Lecha, to the land that I will show you. A New Queen in Shushan is the signature piece of the Holocaust exhibit, All That Remains, a Holocaust exhibit in fiber. And it is layer upon layer of images. Here on the sleeve, on the velvet outer garment, of the Queen's robe are these images that look like decorative images, but as you look more closely, they're piles of eyeglasses. Inside are passages from the Megillat Esther, and vestiges of the tzitzit are shown in the front. The edges are burned, and the undercoat shows the concentration camp fabric. Messages on the Kinder transport. In my story, this constructed teddy bear has been left back on the tracks, pulling out of the station, and left in the corner. The credits for this go to the Texas Transportation Museum, where the theater director, Rochelle Newman, staged these photographs on an actual railroad car from the time of the 1940s. My teddy bear's jacket contains secret messages revealing the situation, the situation of what was really happening in Hitler's Europe. This child evidently has left the bear on the train when put onto the ferry that takes them over to England. And this bear with its jacket that has messages poking out at the bottom, and photographs on inside of the lining. On the back are free motion embroidery images of children as they trudged through the snow. All that remains is scheduled to be shown next at the Virginia Holocaust Museum in Richmond, Virginia in April of 2021, subject, of course, to possible postponement because of the state of the pandemic. So I would really like to tell you that I am definitely looking forward to your questions and your comments, and always to your creative writing of stories, of poems, of lyrics, hopefully inspired by some of the pieces in my shows. So thank you all for coming and for sitting through my show.
Thank you, Leslie, very much. The work is beautiful. Our first, I think we have a comment from Betsy Ratner. Betsy, can you unmute yourself? You're on mute.
It won't unmute.
There you go.
Okay, kept clicking on it. I don't know why it took so long to unmute. I'm really touched. I have goosebumps. Your work is just incredibly lovely. And I'm honored that BEKI was fortunate enough to have this beautiful gift of your work. It really is phenomenal. The way I receive it is I'm like feeling the grace, the beauty, the history through your aesthetic talent of texture. That's just, I mean, I'm in the art field, I'm like, whoa. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You bring tears to my eyes. Thank you.
And I think we have a question next from Joanne Rudolph. Joanne, can you unmute yourself, please?
Just did.
Okay, there you go.
I'm a fabric person and a texture person and a collage person. It's something I really appreciate. And Ezra Jack Keats, I don't know if you know his work. He does children's books, and they were based on collages. Snowy Day, Whistle for Willie.
Yes.
And he was my dad's best friend growing up in East New York. So, and his books are all collage. But in any case, I would like you to just think about responding to the philosophical question of making art dealing with the Holocaust. It can be controversial. It is a way of survivors testifying in many ways, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, what grabbed me was my first trip to Dachau. And I could feel the ghosts and the voices all around me. I hadn't really known much about the Holocaust other than from the movies, from what I read, but knowing that the Klein family suffered through the beginning part of through the Holocaust and escaped one step ahead of the Gestapo, really brought everything home to me. So for me, it feels like it's my job, it's my mission to bring the feelings of the Holocaust through the immediacy of fabric and the immediacy of clothing, where you can almost feel the presence of real people that we no longer have with us. So to me, even though work in the Holocaust is difficult and sometimes suffocating, it's really enlightening for me to be able to have the privilege of doing that. Thanks for the question. Did I answer your question?
Do we have any more questions or comments that anybody would like to make? Nobody has
Looks
contacted
like
me.
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
Okay.
I was wondering if I could just follow up on that because, you know, when you show the piece Lily's dress, and the name Lily comes from my grandmother's twin sister who did not survive the Holocaust. So my grandmother survived and Lily did die in a concentration camp. And she also had 2 young daughters. And so I feel like, you know, when you see the dress, it reminds you that there was this person, Lily. And there was this person, Lily, who had these daughters. And they had a life that was part of a family. And so I feel like it, you know, even the name connected with the dress is able to remind you of these people who were actually in our family.
And we have the next generation of twins. Jennifer's daughters.
Lisa has a question. Lisa, can you unmute yourself, please?
Leslie, over the years, I've seen your artwork, but to hear you go through it and give such an in-depth discussion of your thinking and what you created and your goal in doing the different pieces made it just so special. I really have always admired, I'm like Joan, I'm a texture person, and I love fabrics and collage and fibers, and I've always admired that and the art to wear, all of it, but it made it so different hearing what you brought to the piece to do it, and how you intertwine so many history and Judaism and the stories. It was really brought a whole different light to me. So thank you so much. It was very special. And I too came into the Klein family. My family, my grandparents escaped from Russia, and I know very little about their story, but have learned so much about the Holocaust and, you know, from the Klein family story and from Miriam's work. And it's amazing to combine that with the things that you have brought to the table too. So thank you. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. And if you could see Lisa, you would recognize her immediately as one of my Eve images. Thank you for sitting for that.
Thank you. Cynthia actually has a question.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I've been having internet problems, so if I freeze, just move on, guys, and I'll come back. But I'm interested in the biblical references in so many of the works. And if you had an upbringing where you learned a lot about Torah as a child, or if this was something you came to later, and how you integrated that into your thinking and why it fills your artwork. And it's we can learn a lot. Those of us who really need to study more of the stories can be pushed to study by looking at your work. So
that was a great question. I grew up in a totally assimilated family. We knew that we were Jewish, but we celebrated Christmas. We didn't celebrate much of anything. And I married when I married a rabbi's son. So for a long time, I was known in the family as the minimum requirement. But at that point was when I really felt like I wanted to know more. I wanted to be more Jewish. And my sister and I would always ask our parents, if we're Jewish, why don't you take us to synagogue? Our friends all go to synagogue. Well, they missed the boat on that one. So this was my opportunity to be in a family that was steeped in Judaism, steeped in rabbinical lore. And with the combination of the women's movement and the burgeoning of women's biblical scholarship, that really put it all together to me, and it still burns. So I felt that it was important. One other thing about that, I felt that it was important to bring in a Jewish sensibility into mainstream art. When I first moved to San Antonio, there were so many different images from Mexican Catholic backgrounds by people, artists who were neither Mexican nor Catholic. But their images were of the Virgin of Guadalupe, etc. And I said, hey, wait a second. If they can do that, I can be part of mainstream art and do my own images from a Jewish perspective. And so the first piece of the Shushan that was done in 2000, that won the Warrior Artist Award at the, I think that it was at the Whitney Art Museum. So that was entry into in the Whitty Museum. That was the entry into of Judaic sensibility into mainstream art for me.
Right, thanks.
Thank you. Jesse, I think, wanted to make a comment.
Yes, thank you. Leslie, it was looking at each one of these pieces was so moving. It means so much. The way there are so many images there that are just like the stories that we heard growing up from our parents and the whole community of survivors. I loved, although it's pretty horrifying, the painting of the train doors. And on the side, you had the passages of Lech Lecha. It is really inspiring. Everything was just hit beautifully and really vivid. I mean, it's so interesting. So many of us had families that were in the rag trade, and that was their whole lives. My mother told me stories about sewing the gems into the hems, and on and on. So the way you've represented it is so real, and it really wonderful use of all different dimensions and making it so contemporary too for today's mixed media. It was just moving. I loved the lace on Lilith's dress, reminiscent of what my mother told me, stories about what they brought to the ghetto. And even that picture with Mengele's, that room, when my mother talked to me about, she had twin sisters when they came into Auschwitz.
Oh,
It's so vivid. It's just beautiful. And I thank Cynthia because we've had over the years magnificent material hangings with all these biblical images and relations, and there's so many lessons to learn. It's just beautiful. Thank you so much. I learned a lot.
thank you. Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
I
really appreciate that.
If we don't have any more questions right now or comments, I'm sure that if you have something in the future,
Donna
that
had something.
what was that?
Donna wants to say something.
Oh, Donna, didn't see your hand. Sorry, go ahead. Unmute yourself, please.
I just had one question. I wondered what your early background was. Were you trained in art, or was it something that just came from inside?
It always starts from inside. I don't have a formal art degree. My degree is in early childhood education. But when Jennifer was a baby, I stopped teaching and I began taking classes in art. So what I did was I mapped out the art classes that I would normally take in a degree granting institution semester by semester, so that I could get the background, the in-depth background that I really craved. I found that where my home was in drawing, figure drawing and classical drawing, until once I was in, what you doing there?
They don't see that.
Once I was in a figure drawing class, and the teacher comes around and critiques each person as he goes, and he would come to me and he would say, you really have to work on your line. You have to make it more nuanced. And so he'd go around and I'd work on my line, and he'd get around to me and he'd say, you really have to work on volume. And every time he would come around, he'd tell me something different, until I was almost in tears at the end of the class. And finally I said, why do you tell me this? I told him how I just couldn't keep up with all the things that he was requiring of me. And I said, why? And the next person, you said, oh, that's great. That really looks nice. And you go on to the next one. I said, why did you do that? And he said, because you were worth it. So that really made my whole life. And so my background is well-grounded without an art degree.
It was certainly worth it.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're gonna turn this over. Cynthia, did you have anything else you wanted to say about your
Yeah, I would just encourage people to go to the BEKI website. And the link, if you get the PDF, that link is actually hot in the PDF. You can click on it and also bring you right to the page where we have Leslie's work, and then you can see the video again.
Right.
Well, that's for that you put
the
what
prices,
you posted
yeah.
is the link for
the price
for the
sheet,
prices.
Yeah.
And then but also you can watch the video again and read a little bit more. So I think it's worth doing, and that will be up for a long time. The work will eventually get back to Leslie, so more of it. And really, I have to say that the whole BEKI Art Committee really came together. I mean, this was a show that we worked on for a very long time, a very, very long time preparing for it. And we had it up for Purim when some people saw it then. We had it up for our double bat mitzvah, and then
On and on.
Well,
life happened. So thank you.
We're lucky to have had it as long as we had, so that you could shoot this beautiful video, Cynthia, that we
Yeah.
can all see, that Leslie was able to use for her talk. It really worked out well. Thank you. Shoshana, do you have some announcements?
I have a couple of things to say. I want to thank you, Leslie, and Cynthia. This was really spectacular. And I was just thinking about the one time I went into the building. I think it was Slichot, right before Rosh Hashanah, and I hadn't been in the building since March at BEKI, and it was such a comfort to see your beautiful artwork on the walls, because I assumed it had been taken down and was gone, and that I was bracing myself to come into kind of this empty building without people and without anything. And it was like, oh, okay, this is BEKI, and we have this beautiful display, and I've met you, and I know Jennifer, and I know the girls. And anyway, so thank you very much. It really has been super special for us to have the exhibit, and I really appreciate it. I just want to tell people about a couple of upcoming events, of course. Saturday night, this Saturday, December 12th at 5:30, we're going to have a Havdalah and Hanukkah celebration with music and candle lighting. We're hoping that people will Zoom in such a way that we can see you light your menorahs, and we'll have singing, of course, not in unison because you can't do that with Zoom, but we're going to try to make it as festive as possible. So please join us. It's family friendly. We're going to have people of all ages, hopefully, joining us. And then on the 16th, next Wednesday, we're participating in a nationwide virtual Hanukkah program that was put together by a congregation in Palo Alto. Somebody there is, of course, a cousin of John Jay's, because he has cousins everywhere, and reached out and invited us to participate. And they're going to be doing candle lighting, singing. There's going to be a concert by Neshama Karlbach. That starts at 8:30 next Wednesday evening. And I think it's going to be live streamed, and I think there's information on the flyer about how to access it. So keep your eyes open for that. And that's all I have to say for now.
I'd like to ask if I have access to comments in the chat. Will that be recorded, or?
I printed out, I have the chat saved.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, my guru has the chat
Your
saved.
guru took care of it. How lovely.
Lucky me.
Yeah, I think you can download it.
Yep, we got it.
Great. Thank you very much, and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Daryl, you are on mute.
You're muted, Daryl.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Deb, for all-
So
thank
I
you,
said,
Daryl,
thank you,
for all your
everybody. Happy Hanukkah. I hope that everybody stays well, and that you can have some connection with family and friends as we go into this celebration. Let's make the most of it. Take care. Good
Happy
night.
Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you again.
Thank you so
And
much.
Daryl, thank you for that information about Kachka in Portland. I ordered
Did you order
I ordered it for my sister,
Hey.
my daughter and her roommates.
the
They're
latke
gonna make their
dinner?
own latkes on the
Yeah.
like Saturday, but they'll get the meal.
Yeah, I'm gonna order it for Scott and Eliza as well, I think.
I wish I could get it here.
Because
those
I want it,
toppings.
yes, because I want it here,
I
right.
want to taste those toppings.
What we're talking about is there is in Portland, there's a wonderful Russian restaurant that's owned by a Jewish couple, or at least the wife is Jewish. And the restaurant is not kosher. It really is Russian. But they make all kinds of takeout dinner during the pandemic, all kinds of takeout dinners and stuff. And they have a latke party special, which is like latkes and creme fraiche and all kinds of, and sour cream and
Different kinds of like
just a
toppings we never
whole,
imagined.
platter of incredible things that they're making available to people. And it's wonderful.
What's it
Did you
called?
have their kachka?
Kachka. If you go to Portland, you got to go to Kachka.
Yeah, really.
Especially if you like vodka.
Oh, right, because you both have kids
Can you
there.
type it in
Yeah.
chat
Right,
for those who
I'm
are
clearly
listening to
not
Portland?
going to be in Portland until 10 years from now.
It's actually quite surprising how many BEKI people have relatives in Portland. Yeah.
Well, my cousin, who my mom was saying was just in the car accident, they're on their way to moving there. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
kidding.
Wow.
yeah, quitting Atlanta.
So
Quitting Atlanta.
I just wanted to put in a plug for Claire's because Claire's is doing specialty latkes.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yes, they're doing like every night a different kind of like maybe zucchini
that's cool.
latkes one night and something else different night. So you actually
That's
can
good to
support a
know.
local restaurant and not have to make your own, even though they're relatively easy to make. But
They are relatively easy to make, but they make your house smell for a long time. So
Yeah.
my
Well,
one,
it's
my
a
only
huge job.
objection.
But Shoshana, so is the Hanukkah thing on Friday night or Saturday night?
Saturday night. It's
Saturday.
right after Shabbat ends. We'll do Havdalah, and then we'll light the menorahs. John Jay's going to say a little something. We have some musical performances and some singing.
What
and
time is it at?
It starts at
time?
5:30. It's early.
Okay.
5:30, right after Shabbat ends.
Okay.
oh,
All
then we
right.
have to
wanted to
buy
make it-
latkes. We're gonna have latkes by 5:30.
No, but you can't you can't have latkes, but you can make your latkes afterwards. Because you're gonna be done by 6:30.
Okay. Well, Jesse, I'm sorry to hear about your mother.
Yes, me too. I'm
and,
so sorry.
Yes.
condolences. So,
Yeah, she was a great lady, as our mums
Mm.
usually are. At 94 and a half.
Wow.
Really wonderful. Yeah. Very
When was the
positive.
last time? When were you there last?
2019 in March. I was supposed to go March 2020 and the last minute we canceled.
Oh,
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
spoke to her right in that last week. So,
good.
yeah. And, anyway.
You were there in a sense.
That's right.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. But, yeah, my sister's holding up the end. Anyway, everybody's from all over the world is, tuning in or calling, and it's been really heartwarming. Thank you to everyone.
Yeah.
Made us all feel wonderful. I had the opportunity to join the Daryl's family to do Kaddish one night. Her brother led services, and they were scattered. They were in Georgia, they were in Virginia, they were in Oregon. I got to see
Yeah,
the
we were in all 4 time zones, actually.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing. Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was the best thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody here has just been wonderful. I feel like arms are around me all the time. Thank you very much.
oh,
And this was
very
just
nice.
beautiful tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, this was really nice. Your mom's amazing. Janet.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Incredible.
Leslie's.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear it all put together and all the research and all the knowledge that goes
Details,
into
so many
it, and
details, yeah.
just, the eloquence of speaking about it. But it was really funny that first time that Cynthia came to our house in New Haven and my mom was there, and Cynthia was like, I've been looking for you for years. I've been showing this slide for your work. And,
Wow.
like, where have you been?
That's really
Wow.
funny.
But well, thank you
really
for
funny.
enabling her to do this. Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I'm glad it got to be that whole retrospective of the work, which is
Her fabric work, her
Yeah.
three-dimensional work is really stunning.
yeah. No, it is just it's
Yeah.
amazing to think about the fact that it's white cloth.
I know. So she does everything, the painting, the
Yeah.
dyeing, the sewing, the beading, or whatever. She put every little bit of something.
Layer upon layer. So complex cloth.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, I'm going to return to grading papers.
Oh, yay. Such fun.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Okay, take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks so much for doing this. Too.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, great. All right.